Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have criticised an online petition ahead of their trip to Australia next month.
Hasn't Australia suffered enough? What have you done to deserve this?
I know.
I mean, the couple.
Oh, God, can they just stop with the pseudo-royal tours? I mean, they're like pound store royals at this point.
This is just a petition to show that we all think you're just a couple of wankers.
It's because the Australian public didn't know Meghan Markle very well. Well, they know her now. And what do they know her to be? A gold-digging grifter.
Why has Meghan Markle been accused of using Australia as an ATM? We do have an unmissable show for you.
Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, the pay-per-view royals, landed in Australia today in a fake royal tour that they'll use to make money.
That seems to be the calculation, that we will be charmed and flattered, but we won't notice the con.
The royal couple yesterday, oh, they're not a royal couple anymore, are they? The grifters.
Who's from Tassie here?
They may divide public opinion, but at the Children's Hospital, a royal welcome for Harry and Meghan.
But last night it was payday. MasterChef had hired a special guest to boost its ratings.
Is there? So there's a lot more to this than what we just see on the surface.
The Duchess of Despair and Endless Grievance. And her hapless, ballless husband, Prince Harry.
And it's like they always self-sabotage. Like when I think I'm going to have to eat my words.
They are just shoving themselves down the people of Australia's throats, and the people in Australia are like, we're just trying to go to work.
Just stay home, hang out with the fellas, have a beer, watch TV.
I honestly thought that the trip wouldn't go well. It has been a catastrophe.
Has it?
Oh my goodness, it's been so bad.
They flew in on a commercial Qantas flight. No royal charter, no fanfare from Buckingham Palace. Just Harry and Meghan touching down in Melbourne on April 14th, 2026. Their first time back in Australia since their 2018 royal tour, when everything still looked possible. The messaging was careful. This was a private trip, they said. Philanthropic. A chance to support veterans, visit hospitals, champion causes that matter. And within hers, the photos were everywhere. Meghan in a crisp outfit, crouching beside sick children at the Royal Children's Hospital, Harry shaking hands, both of them warm and present and visibly moved. It looked like a royal tour. It felt like a royal tour. And according to Daily Mail royal editor Rebecca English, that's exactly the problem. If you want more deep dives like this, make sure to subscribe to Royal Archives. Because here's what didn't make the feel-good headlines. Within 24 hours of landing, before the dust had even settled on that hospital visit, an announcement quietly went out to People magazine. Meghan had joined an AI-powered fashion platform called OneOff, not just as a featured celebrity, as an investor. The platform works simply. You see what Meghan is wearing, you click, you buy. She takes a cut of every sale, and the clothes she was wearing, the ones now listed and shoppable in real time, they included what she had on at the Royal Children's Hospital. That's where things stop making sense. Rebecca English, who has covered the British royal family for over 2 decades, didn't mince words. She noted that photographs from that hospital visit were being used to sell Meghan's clothes. And she said that, at best, that blurs the lines. Critics online were far less measured. Across social media, one question kept surfacing. Was this really about the children? Or was this about the clothes? Now. To be fair, Meghan has always influenced fashion. The so-called Meghan effect has been documented since 2018, when a pair of Outland denim jeans she wore on that very first Australia tour sold out within hours. That's not new. That's not a crime. Celebrities monetize their image. That's the world we live in. But this is different. And here's why. When Meghan wore those jeans in 2018, she was a working royal. There was no affiliate link, no investor stake, no real-time shoppable platform tracking her every outfit. Yes, the line between public service and personal gain, however blurry it sometimes got, was at least acknowledged to exist. That line, observers are now saying, has quietly disappeared. Rebecca English went further. She pointed to something that royal insiders have been watching with growing unease: the structure of this entire Australia trip. the hospital visit, the wreath laying at the Australian War Memorial. Harry speaking at a Movember event about fatherhood and mental health.
It doesn't have to be professional therapy. It can be talking with your mates. It can be talking to a complete stranger.
Every element, she noted, was indistinguishable from a working royal tour. She said colleagues told her the operational press notes circulating in Australia could have been issued directly by Buckingham Palace. You would not have known the difference. And then, piggybacking on the back of all of it, the commercial ventures, the paid speeches, the fashion investment, the wellness retreat in Sydney, priced at over 2,000 Australian dollars a ticket, that quietly failed to sell out. This, English argued, is exactly what Queen Elizabeth feared. At the Sandringham Summit in January 2020, the crisis meeting that effectively ended Harry and Meghan's time as working royals, the late Queen drew one line she refused to negotiate. No half in, half out. You could not use the credibility of the crown to build a private commercial empire. The institution and the income had to stay separate. Full stop. 6 years later, critics are asking whether Harry and Meghan have found their way back to exactly that, just through a different door. A source close to the late Queen told Rebecca English plainly, "This is everything she didn't want to happen." But here's what makes this story more complicated than it first appears. Because Harry didn't just come to Australia to sell fashion. He came with something to say. At that Movember event in Melbourne, he stood on stage and said, and these are his exact words, that he needed to cleanse himself of the past before he could be the father he wanted to be.
How do I parent my kid or kids the same way that I was parented as well?
That he felt a disconnection when Meghan was pregnant. That the conversations now happening between him and his children are ones that never existed between him and his own parents. Vulnerable, raw. The kind of thing that makes audiences lean in. And that's precisely what has some observers unsettled. Because at the same time, Harry is publicly processing his childhood wounds on a Melbourne stage. The same wounds that fueled a memoir, multiple lawsuits, and a very public war with the institution that raised him. A defamation case filed against him in the High Court of London is quietly working its way through the system. Not filed by a tabloid, not filed by a palisade, filed by Sentebale, the African children's charity. Harry co-founded himself. In honor of his late mother, Princess Diana, Sentebale means forget-me-not in Sesotho. Harry chose that name himself. It was his tribute to Diana, her love for Lesotho, her instinct to kneel beside the vulnerable, her belief that a royal could do something real in the world. He co-founded the charity in 2006 with Prince Seeiso of Lesotho. For nearly 2 decades, it was arguably the most personal thing he had ever built, which makes what happened next almost impossible to process. In March 2025, Harry and Prince Seeiso resigned as patrons. When the fallout with the charity's chair, Dr. Sophie Chandauka, had become public and ugly. Allegations flew in both directions. The UK Charity Commission launched an investigation. And then, on March the 24th, 2026, just weeks before Harry boarded that Qantas flight to Melbourne, Sentebale filed a defamation claim against him in the High Court of England and Wales. Harry and his former trustee, Mark Dyer, are named as defendants. The charity statement described them as the architects of a coordinated media campaign that triggered, in their words, an onslaught of cyberbullying directed at Sentebale's leadership. It said the campaign caused real operational damage to the work the charity exists to do, work that serves some of the most vulnerable young people in southern Africa. Harry's team categorically rejects every word of it. But the timing is striking. The man who flew to Australia to lay wreaths and visit sick children and speak movingly about healing, Zainab is simultaneously being sued by the charity he built to honor his mother. That is not a rumor. That is a matter of public court record. And observers are noting the contrast quietly but pointedly. Rebecca English, who has spent months watching this Australia trip take shape, framed the broader picture in terms that cut to the heart of the debate. She said the Sussex model, as it now exists, is the half-in, half-out arrangement the palace spent years trying to prevent, royal adjacent enough to command attention, private enough to monetize it. The credibility of the crown? deployed in service of the brand. She didn't say that lightly. She said it because the evidence, she argues, is right there in the itinerary. Think about what this trip actually looked like from the outside. Hospital visit, day 1. War memorial wreath laying, day 2. Mental health advocacy speech, Movember, Melbourne. A reception for Invictus Australia. Every beat calibrated for maximum goodwill, maximum coverage, maximum emotional resonance, and running parallel to all of it, OneOff, the wellness retreat, the paid speech circuit, the commercial engine humming quietly underneath the charitable packaging. Critics in the Australian press used a phrase that has since circulated widely. They said Harry and Meghan were treating Australia like an ATM. Now, some context matters here. The crowds that turned out were real. The warmth was real. Supporters lined the streets outside the Royal Children's Hospital, waving flags, calling out, whatever the debate about the commercial arrangements, the public appetite for Harry and Meghan, at least in Australia, has not entirely evaporated. That is worth acknowledging. But appetite and approval are not the same thing, and the media reaction, even in a country generally sympathetic to the Sussexes, has been divided in ways that would have been hard to imagine even 2 years ago. The wellness retreat tells its own story. Her best life. 3 days, women only, 5-star hotel in Sydney, the promise of an in-person conversation with Meghan herself. 300 spaces. Tickets priced at over $2,500 Australian dollars. When the event was announced more than a month out, organizers declared it sold out almost immediately. Then, quietly, more tickets appeared. Then more. And right up until 72 hours before the event, availability notices were still circulating. Final rooms, last-minute spots, the language of scarcity, deployed around an event that never actually filled. That is not the Meghan effect of 2018. That is something else. And yet, here's the part of the story that tends to get lost in the noise. Harry, whatever else is true about him, did not invent the emotional openness he displayed on that Melbourne stage. When he stood up at that Movember event and talked about disconnection, about therapy, about needing to confront the past before he could show up for his children, that was not a script. The research on paternal bonding, on the particular alienation fathers can feel during pregnancy and early infancy, is well documented. Men don't talk about it. They should. And whatever the commercial context surrounding this tour, Harry talking about it in front of a crowd in Melbourne has value. The question, and it is a genuine question, not a rhetorical one, is whether that value is being used in service of the cause or in service of the brand. Rebecca English put it plainly. She said this tour left a nasty taste in a lot of people's mouths.
These commercial enterprises, and I think that has left quite a nasty taste in a lot of people's mouths.
Not because Harry and Meghan showed up, not because they visited a hospital or laid a wreath, but because the infrastructure built around those moments, the affiliate links, the shoppable outfits, the carefully curated commercial announcements timed to the emotional high points, suggests something other than pure charity at work. A source close to Queen Elizabeth, speaking to English about what the late monarch would have made of all this, they chose their words carefully. They said they would not put words in her late Majesty's mouth, but they said this is everything she didn't want to happen. 6 years after Sandringham, 2 continents away from Windsor, and the argument that was never fully resolved about what Harry and Meghan are, what they're allowed to be, and who gets to draw that line, is still very much alive. The Sentebale case will eventually reach a courtroom, or it will settle. The OneOff platform will either build into something significant or quietly fade. The Invictus Games in Birmingham are scheduled for 2027, and Harry has made clear he wants Meghan beside him when he returns to British soil for that. Whether the palace is ready for that conversation, and whether the public is a question nobody has answered yet. So what Australia made clear is this: the Sussex story is not over. It has just changed shape. And the people watching most closely are not the fans and not the critics. They are the ones inside the institution, the ones who remember what was promised at Sandringham, and the ones who are now watching very carefully to see what comes next.